The internet hates this game. I'm gonna be honest with you. This game is everything they hate. Yes, the leftist is losing their freaking mind over Pragmata, man. I swear to God. You have Hassan crashing out. You have the leftist people on Twitter crashing out. I think maybe you have some journalists crashing out too as well. I'm not too sure, to be frankly honest. You can't quote me on that one, but honestly, I know that the leftist people are like hella crashing out about Pragmata.
Why do people have to be so weird? Why can't people just be normal? In my eyes,
Because they like to fucking project and their life is so miserable. That's the reason why. These people like to project stuff that literally is in their head or so, and that's what makes them the weird ones, to be honest. While everyone else is literally thinking normally about that game itself, these people are just thinking the most out-of-pocket thing in the entire world.
Pragmata is a universal W across the board for all parties involved. It's one of those games where I don't really care how successful it is. Luckily, it is very successful. It sold 1 million copies in its first 2 days. But
That's pretty good.
it's one of those games that I just want it to get the respect that it deserves. But it is definitely not getting the respect that it deserves because it is being demonized and dragged into the gutter by some of the most terminally online. We have a AAA game that released in 2026 that is yet again just a damn good video game. A second by Capcom already this year. This game looks gorgeous. It plays well. It's a ton of fun to play. It's incredibly wholesome and just a great experience overall. It's packed with content. And more importantly, it's a new IP that seems to have actually landed, which is something that the AAA industry by and large has been terrified brainless of for a decade by now.
The only problem is it's because they make the shittiest decisions and they put the wrong people in charge or so for the new IPs. That's the reason why. Mostly it's their decision making at the end of the day, because they're there to try to nickel and dime you. Like, oh, how are we gonna squeeze every cent from our player base? That's kind of like how it is.
That should be it. That should be the end of this story, but of course it's not. Of course something this sincere is not allowed to exist like this. No, it's been lifted onto the pyre of a culture war that it doesn't belong to at all. All for the crime of featuring a wholesome family dynamic and a positive father figure. Something that has been so mangled and contorted that now both the developers and the players have been labeled as predators. So today what I want to do is I want to talk about the reception of Pragmata. I want to talk about why I think this is one of the most important releases that we've seen in years, and also why I believe a lot of the hate that this game...
It's also making a lot of gamer guys or so have their fatherly instincts activated. I'm just saying, a lot of them want to have a daughter now, or want to start a family at least.
is actually just a product of entertainment.
Which is kind
of
funny in my personal opinion.
Where are the dads?
Where are the dads?
You know, normally I don't go out of my way to give my flowers to AAA publishers, but out of all of them, Capcom feels like one of the only ones, maybe the only one, that has been able to keep its head on straight and kept trying to improve. In an industry that has largely abandoned its audience in favor of their shareholders, something that Capcom also has been guilty of themselves several times as well, they are still one of the very few that seem to still understand who their audience is and respect the art of making games. And with that in mind, I just want to recognize how absurd their 2026 run has been so far. They started out this year with overdue performance fixes for Monster Hunter Wilds. Then they dropped Resident Evil Requiem, which was loved by critics. And
I will still not play Monster Hunter Wilds. I don't care. They fucked up my franchise. They can fuck right off with that one, to be honest. Even if they make a new one, I will not buy it.
Players, and it went on to break the series sales records. Then after that, they had Monster Hunter Stories 3, another game that landed really well across the board, and now they've done it yet again with Pragmata, hitting an 87 on OpenCritic and even beating Expedition 33's user score on Steam. The game has already gone on to sell 1 million copies, and people are loving this game. And honestly, I think that it really deserves it. I've been playing it myself, and Pragmata is just fun. It's such a well-crafted video game. I've always liked third-person action games like this. Dead Space is one of my favorite series, and this game kind of still hits that same sweet spot with tone, atmosphere, and gameplay loops that are just so strong that it makes time disappear. This game is so gorgeous. Performance has been flawless so far as I can tell, at the very least. And what really surprised me with
performance actually really that good? Can you tell me, Dubstep? Is it actually really good?
this game was the variety. I went in expecting that this is going to feel limited to just, well, a space station. That's where we're at. We're on a space station on the moon. But they used this whole idea of using this rare mineral to be able to print whatever they could imagine. And they just use that to constantly surprise you. One minute you're in the space station, next it's simulated New York City, then you're in an overgrown forest. It just keeps throwing color and contrast and new ideas your way so that the whole thing never feels sterile or predictable.
Oh, it's fun. The hacking minigame keeps you on your toes, and hell yes, this game is optimized. What the fuck? It's optimized? A Capcom game? Optimized good? Question mark?
And then there's the gameplay, which I still have no idea how these guys made this feel this good.
Or you don't really see much
comparison that I think that we have for the gameplay is something like Nier Automata's 9S hacking ability, but Pragmata pulls that mechanic directly into the real-time combat. So you're hacking while you're also dodging enemies, moving through the area, and trying not to get swarmed while also picking up a bunch of items and weapons and switching weapons. And somehow these guys just found the right balance. It's not so complicated that it kills the flow, but it's also not so simple that it feels pointless. Then they start adding in mods and bonuses to make it feel more strategic. Honestly, I think getting this one mechanic to feel right is probably where their delays came from, because balancing this had to have been a nightmare. Enemy count, attack speed, area space, weapon feel, player pressure, all of it tuned just right to make sure that the combat stayed intense without tipping over into frustration. The narrative, for a lack of a better term, is basically Dead Space. Pragmata is basically just like Dead Space, where you arrive at a space station to see that it's overtaken by an enemy threat, your crew gets picked off pretty quickly, and then you're left stranded. But where they differ is that soon after losing your crew, you meet Diana, a sentient child android that is there to help you fight enemies and provide you with copious amounts of wholesomeness. Hugh and Diana almost immediately form this father-daughter dynamic, and you're cracking a smile all the time. And you just make your way through into the deeper story of who she is and also what the hell is actually going on at this place. This game is just good, man. It really is. I think it really is that simple. It's not trying to be more than what it needs to be. It's incredibly well paced.
Okay, so my question is to you, Dubstep, since I think you're the only one who has played it so far. Do you think this might be a Game of the Year contender? That's my curiosity. Do you think it has a shot or so in a placement in there? What do you think?
And also, I can't be the only one that is giving out a sigh of relief that after all of this time, we have at least one AAA studio that finally managed to put out a brand new IP. It's not live service, it's actually good, and we're watching it find success. I was looking through a lot of major releases over the past few years and realized that this is one of maybe 5 games in the last 5 years that would even qualify. Entirely new IP from AAA studios is basically non-existent at this point. The industry has just abandoned it for the idea, or at least the favor of, the safest option possible, something that looks like a sure bet, even though these guys are terrible at making bets apparently, anything that's going to keep their shareholders happy. And the longer these guys have kept doing that, well, the fewer games that we're having that future generations could ever even claim as their own. Games have just gotten so much more stagnant. The medium has gotten so much less adventurous, and the industry as a whole has just become a lot less creative. That should be it. That actually should be the conversation for this video.
Because they're scared to
should have been an
innovate.
easy win. We have a AAA IP that actually landed with heart, identity, strong gameplay, a genuinely wholesome emotional core. Yet
My Game of the Year contender for now is Resident Evil 9 and this, but Pragmata is a new IP, so it gets my vote. Nomination, sure, but Game of the Year, sadly, no. You know the gun and ball gamers will not vote for Pragmata. The plot of the story is simple, but oh my god, the interaction with Diana is god tier. I see. Would this fall under RPG category, or because I'm trying to think or so, like what category would fall under? My question is, like, besides, like, you know, GTA or so that's coming out later this year, what other big games that are coming out to be in the slot of Game of the Year contender?
somehow we are not allowed to have something that sincere. Instead, people immediately started contaminating it with some of the most diseased readings possible. They looked at a protective father-daughter dynamic, and instead of seeing warmth, care, and humanity, they saw something predatory. And that framing has completely swallowed the conversation online. Now, the first thing that I want to say before I start crashing out on all of this is that no shit, there are walking, breathing pieces of scum on the internet that are making disgusting images of the character, and there are also people that are defending those people, and they are equally as revolting. Capcom themselves have already reported and got rid of a Twitter user that was upset that they couldn't see the character's underwear. It is weird shit, man. But in response to that, social media has turned into a full-blown moral panic aimed at the players, the developers, and men as a collective. One popular post had read, "I feel like it is a breach of ethics at this point to design child characters for an audience of majority male gamers, explicitly trying to frame all men as predators." Other posts were insinuating that the developers made Diana childlike because they were trying to pander to a degenerate audience. Some people have even gone as far as saying, if you even like Pragmata, well, that alone is going to make you suspect. Why are these people taking the actions of a few revolting freaks and using that to imply that the game, the developers, and the audience, or male players as a whole, are somehow complicit in all of this?
It's because these people are miserable and they have nobody in their life. They have a terrible life. They have a miserable job. They have a miserable life in general. They got no one to love. All they do is literally watch hentai, look at their anime body pillow, and pretty much imagine being with their waifu. That's all they do, to be honest. They have nothing in their life but just be miserable and literally just get angry at everyone else who has a better life than them and they're having joy, even the most smallest joy or so in their life. They just hate it overall. You know, they see gamers having like a fun time with this game or so, having a father-daughter bonding or so, and the gamers or so themselves, because it's mostly male audiences, right, are having this paternal instinct that is awakening from inside of them to see this, and they want something like that. They hate that. They hate hope. That's the thing, chat. Fucking people on Twitter who are just miserable hate people having hope. That's just it, man. Like, straight up, that's all it is to it, because they're just insufferable fucking degenerate fucking wannabe losers that literally don't have nothing in their life.
This is people that are just so desperate to see something ugly that they're just projecting it onto everyone else. A wholesome parental bond is getting treated like it's a crime scene, a new IP is being dragged through the mud, and normal people are being treated like they need to defend themselves for the crime of liking a good video game. And then all this stuff just goes another step further. You have people that are talking about how the game kind of, make them feel like they might want to have a kid someday. Just a normal reaction to this kind of dynamic in the game between Hugh and Diana. And somehow that has turned into another point of suspicion. Like, men don't actually have parental instincts. Like, the only way that they do is when they develop it after the fact of having a kid, and they don't feel that way for any other child other than their own. And if they do try to express anything similar, well, then that's something to question. This is disgusting. They're not trying to protect anybody. At this point, all these people are doing is just summoning demons out of thin air.
Interesting about this is all of these unfuckable losers in the gaming sphere always talk about starting families and stuff. If you're a gamer, you should care about things that you actually experience. You should care about things that you actually enjoy. It's just not something that you're going to experience ever for your life, for the rest of your life, right? Also,
I'm gonna be honest with you. I never thought I would see a Hassan clip on Legendary Drops ever.
I will say, Japanese game, putting a child in there, you're playing with fire.
This is all just so painfully performative to me. All these posts, everything that you're seeing, this is all just for internet clout. None of these people are invested in any of this. They don't care about any of it. They just want people to think that they care, think that they matter more than anything else when it comes to topics like this. Yes, there are disgusting people online. Yes, if you spend enough time on the internet, especially around certain corners of anime and gaming culture, I can understand why some people would be a little suspect. Fine, I'll grant you all of that. But that does not justify taking a normal father-daughter dynamic and a very normal audience reaction in a game that is not framing that relationship in any other way other than aggressively wholesome and painting all of that in the same brush. And when you're jumping from there are some freaks that exist online to gamers are a bunch of unfuckable losers that will never have a family and should never care about it, or a Japanese game with a child in it is now somehow automatically suspect, what are we doing? What are you talking about? You're not protecting anybody. All you're doing is stereotyping, and it's embarrassing. We're talking about the fastest growing hobby and the biggest entertainment industry in the entire world. You are flattening millions of normal people into a punchline, and you're treating basic warmth, care, and a family, people wanting a family, as something inherently suspicious. That is not a serious way to look at art, and it's definitely not a serious way to look at people. This entire thing has just gotten completely out of control. You know, for the people that I've seen that have been talking about Diana's design, they've had a problem with it, saying that they aged her up for some nefarious reasons. Has anybody taken at least 5 seconds to go and look at the design language for character faces pretty much across all Capcom photorealistic games? If you did, you would realize that this is just how they draw faces. It has nothing to do with the age of the character. It has everything to do with the talent of the artist. The style of the artist. That's what you're judging in this case. You don't like their style, but you want to apply that to have some other kind of meaning. You know, she's also an android. So, you know, she's supposed to feel like a little uncanny in some ways, but she definitely does look uncanny. So they nailed that. She doesn't look like a normal kid. But this whole entire thing has just gone way too far. Also, the narrative about how putting a child in a Japanese game is inviting the wrong audience.
There's even art concept in game. These people are frauds.
Why would somebody say something like that? And by the way, I'm not just going to put that evil on one single person. I've seen a lot of people that have been talking about that, using that same kind of narrative, generalizing an entire group of people, an entire development team, or developers as a whole, the players as a whole, the game as a whole. It's so disgusting, and it's such a weird way to engage with any of this. People should really be embarrassed of themselves right now, honestly. It's really disappointing to see. And again, this isn't to say that there aren't weird people online. There aren't some freaks that are on the internet. Hell, I've also seen people that have been taking
clips. But you want to know who are the more freakier ones? The people who are self-projecting, because they're the ones that are the more freakiest, because they're the ones that are projecting stuff that literally only they are thinking all the damn time. Anytime that something like this kind of type of subject comes up, they're the ones that are thinking like this all the time. That's what makes it weird. While some of us are just playing the video game because we play video games and we think it's a good video game, you know? Like, I'm not playing Pragmata, but at the end of the day, you know, because, you know, I gotta be responsible. I gotta pay some stuff anyway, so. Hopefully in the future, I'll be able to play Pragmata later down the line.
Of female streamers that have been playing the game without their consent, without even crediting them in some cases, and they've been posting those clips of these girls crying, reacting to how wholesome the game is, and putting years of leftist feminism destroyed. Shut up. God, you guys are so insufferable. You can't just look at a very normal human reaction without trying to turn it into some ideological victory lap, or...
Everybody's got to turn everything political. Everything. Everything's got to be political these days. That's just how the Western society is, you know?
Some moral panic also in this case. We're not allowed to have anything sincere anymore. We are so lost as a culture. Everything we see, every normal human reaction needs to be twisted and contaminated and politicized in some way. Somebody has to find a win in everything that's out there. And the more that I thought about that, the more that I realized that the whole reason why the reaction to this game has been so weird is because games like this are so rare. It's kind of weird because I haven't finished the game yet, so I don't exactly know how the story is going to end, but I will say that the narrative felt a little jarring to me at first. I mean, you just lost your crew, you watched people you know get killed, crushed, sucked out into the vacuum of space, and then 5 minutes later, you are naming this little android girl, giving her high fives, watching her play on a slide, and saving her from falling while she's chasing around a cat. This is just not normal. It's a little bit odd. There's this constant contrast between the warm, upbeat dynamic of Hugh and Diana and the reality of the situation that you're in. I mean, you're on a moon base where everybody seems to have been brutally killed by rogue AI, and everybody that you know is dead. You don't know if you're going to make it back home, how you're going to make it back home, if you can. And the more I played, the more I realized that's there on purpose. Hugh is putting on a brave face for Diana. He's not panicking. He's not dumping the weight of that situation onto her. He's just trying to stay composed and be the guy with the plan because that's how he wants to protect her. That is fatherly. That is a parental instinct. It is something that is very, very normal. And once I started looking at the game through that lens, it all started to make a hell of a lot more sense to me. But what stuck with me is why I didn't pick up on that right away. Why did it take me sitting down and writing notes before that finally clicked? And then I realized I'm not used to seeing this in entertainment. Real life is actually what made it click for me. I immediately was reminded of the times that my mom and dad, no matter how bad the situation was, stayed calm, held it together, and kept me shielded from the worst of it. That part felt familiar, but what didn't feel familiar was seeing that same instinct show up so plainly in a video game. And then it got me thinking, maybe the reason that so many people are acting so strange or reacting so strange to this dynamic or viewing it in some kind of suspicious way is probably because they're just not used to seeing it either. So I started looking into this just to make sure that I wasn't imagining some pattern, and honestly, it's a lot worse than I expected. Games and entertainment more broadly have moved away from positive family dynamics and especially positive father figures, and it's gotten to the point where that absence feels normal. The wiki TV tropes even has an RPG trope that's called the single parent rule, and once I saw it all laid out, this all kind of clicked for me. Game after game, characters either have no living parents at all, or one parent is conveniently gone, or the surviving parent is getting killed off just to move the story forward. And the second that I started thinking about that pattern, I had this moment where I was like, holy shit, this is basically like every single video game. I mean, when I really sat down and thought about it, this got scary really fast. The only two games that I could think of where the main character had two surviving, well-adjusted parents were Earthbound back from the 90s and Dragon Quest VII in 2000. Oof. I'm sure that there are other examples, but I'm gonna tell you right now, they are very, very few. Outside of that, family is usually gone. Either they are out of the picture entirely, killed off to push the story forward, or more often than not, the whole thing revolves around the missing father while the mother is the one that is still around, and then the fathers never show up in the game, or when they do, they are usually deadbeats, villains, absent, or deeply broken in some way. And I know that some people are going to immediately jump and go, well, wait a minute, what about Joel from The Last of Us, Marcus Phoenix from Gears of War, Kratos from God of War? But those are tragic fathers. In a lot of cases, they have to feel like they have to make this father figure safer by disarming them in some way, weakening them in some way. Their stories are revolving around failure, guilt, sacrifice, redemption, and in a lot of cases, they feel like they're just a setup for the child or for someone else entirely to come in and take over. So yeah, the more that I thought about this, the more that I realized Pragmata might genuinely be one of the only, or at least one of the very few, examples of a father figure in a game that is this wholesome and this uncompromised. And even then, Diana is an android, Hugh is stranded on the moon, his crew is dead, so the story still had to lean into tragedy to be able to get there. But on top of all of that, it makes complete sense why a lot of people would be so confused by a dynamic like this or immediately suspicious of it because they barely see it anymore. Yeah. Not only in games, but honestly in basically all of entertainment now, which sucks, man. That really does, because I think that family is one of the most important things in life, and most
not in the Western society. You know for a damn fact, when it comes to Hispanic culture overall, familia is number one. Familia is always number one when it comes to Hispanic family, you know? That's just how it is. No one is above family. Doesn't matter your girlfriend or your friend or anything like that. Family is always number one.
Cases, and I know every single household is different, it is the one group of people that is supposed to be there for you, accept you for who you are, and give you the kind of foundation that you need to be able to stand on, to be able to live your life. And even if that's not true in real life, it's not true for everybody, even if we don't always get that message should still be out there. That's what family should represent to a lot of people. This should be something that I think is really common.
I feel like that's what's missing, or sometimes in some of the Western society is family values, just family being above everything else. It's definitely because it's like super common in Hispanicness, you know. It's not like I always hear so many stories or so of how shitty families are, everything. It's mostly in the Western society. Well, like, yeah, you have some times like that in Hispanic family too, but like overall, you know, you have that one specific, maybe one or two or whatever family members or so in Hispanic family where, you know, they're always there for you.
Storytelling. It should be one of the most common themes that there is, because even if it's something that's not always realistic, even if it's something that not everybody gets, it still should be the standard that people look up to and try to strive for.
Exactly.
And that picture becomes a whole lot harder to see and understand and connect with when it becomes as rare as it is today.
And like for me personally, when these people are like thinking this kind of like sort of way or so for them, especially from this video game itself, I don't want them to have family, because the problem is, how are they going to treat their kid? You know, are they also, because like these are a lot of leftist people, right? These are like far leaning leftists, off the deep end, crazy cahutus, where basically like, you know, they can brainwash the kid. You know, the kid spawns in like fucking like veteran difficulty. You know, their spawn rate is shitty. You know, they're getting spawn camped because their parents are gonna do, you know, heinous stuff to them and brainwash them, and and think of some other weird way for them, because at the end of the day, that's how easily you can tamper the mind of a young kid or so, because they're like a sponge or so. They absorb a lot of things or so pretty easily, and you can easily brainwash the kids, and then they become exactly the same as them. I don't know.
Like, what kind of message are we trying to send here? Are these people just that creatively bankrupt? I think that actually probably is the explanation in a lot of cases for a lot of this stuff. But when entertainment just keeps defaulting to broken homes, absent parents, dead fathers, dead mothers, betrayal, dysfunction, and trauma is the only language they seem to know for family, eventually all that's going to do is it's going to start to reshape what people see as normal. It's not just removing a different kind of storytelling from the board, but it's also making healthy family dynamics just look unfamiliar and feel unfamiliar. So when we see something like Pragmata that comes along and plays it straight, people just don't know how to read it anymore. They don't know how to meet it where it is. They just start side-eyeing it and overanalyzing it because it just doesn't make any sense to them. So they start contaminating it with the ugliest reading they possibly can think of because, well, they have been trained to think something this wholesome must have a catch.
Guy.
I'm gonna be real with you guys. I just do not think that should be the case. Games, movies, TV, all of it should be doing more to reinforce what people need, not just what is broken. Same could probably be said for me as a content creator and a lot of other people as well. I think a lot of us get really fixated on some of the negatives in most cases because that ends up being some of the most salacious and the thing that most people are probably interested in. But I'm not also saying that every single story needs to be squeaky clean. I'm just saying that we just don't need to make everything about tragedy and dysfunction. I do think that those things should still exist. Obviously, they should. A lot of great stories still come from pain, but when that becomes the default, when that becomes the only thing or the only version of family that we ever see, when it stops feeling honest and it starts feeling like it's, I don't know, creative malnourishment at this point.
This is why I avoid online or more specific X discussions. That's why my Twitter feed is the greatest Twitter feed that I could ever have, to be honest, because I don't have to see any of these weirdos on my timeline feed crashing out over a goddamn video game. I even get memes or so from Pragmata in the best way possible. I'm just looking at Pragmata, like, damn, this game looks really fun. I want to play it, but I just don't have the money for it. So, because I got to be responsible, I got to pay some things, like I said.
Well, we have a problem. You're cutting out one of the most universal, grounding, and emotionally powerful parts of life and replacing it with something that is just a damaged framework that everybody else is going to have to try to live their life by. I want that to change, man. I really do. I think that we can get a lot more out of entertainment than people probably realize. And I'm hoping that a game like Pragmata actually brings about that change in a lot of ways. I'm already seeing that it's being successful, and hopefully other people want to try to chase this kind of trend. This is a good trend that you guys could be chasing.
Yes.
We could get a hell of a lot more emotional range out of a lot of these games. We could see relationships
that are not the same boring formulaic storytelling like Sony does with their stories.
Built on care and patience and teaching and sacrifice and stability instead of just pain and loss all the time. We would get more father figures that were allowed to simply just be good and not broken men that are crawling towards redemption, not a bunch of villains or cautionary tales, not dead by act 2, just a bunch of good men that are trying to protect something that they love. I think that sends a really good message. And I think people are starving for that, whether they know it or not. Because when a game finally gives them that, look at this reaction. Look at how people are acting right now. This is a normal reaction in a lot of cases. People are lashing onto it immediately. They feel it. They respond to it. They start talking about family, talking about parenthood, and wanting to be and own the same kind of bond in their own lives.
It's already on Steam.
All of this honestly just feels like an ocean of bad talent, lack of talent, and lazy writing in a lot of cases. I think that there's going to be a lot of people, or some people at the very least, that are going to try to jump to the immediate conclusion.
That's why people are already crashing out about the game.
All of this is indoctrination, a broader conspiracy, very purposeful in some cases.
Weird. I don't
know,
that
might be true in some cases. You'll probably see some propagandizing, but I mostly just think that this is a vicious cycle of something that worked once, a story that worked once, and then a bunch of other people started iterating on that exact same story. This kind of goes back to why we don't see a lot of new IP in video games. Same is also true for movies. These guys are afraid to take losses, so they just keep trying to take the safest bet. So
the reason why they're afraid of losses is because they put so much goddamn money in their goddamn video game. But then the problem is too, the root of that too as well, is because a lot of the studios are in California, and the amount of money they have to spend or so in California is like absurd. So that's the reason why they blow up so much money into their games. I think if the studios moved away from California and moved somewhere else, or at least some of the studios moved away from California, I think it'd probably be better to some degree. But I don't know how much that would be, to be honest, because at the same time you still have that California mentality, and my question is, would that come along with them too if they move those studios to somewhere else?
Something worked once, they just keep doing it. And what they do is they just come by with a fresh coat of paint, change it just enough so it's just slightly different. Maybe you won't notice, and the cycle continues again and again and again. That's what makes this whole thing just really frustrating for me, because Pragmata should be a shining example of how this could still work, of how it should still work, of how much people actually still want a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, and I know my donation is broken. I can't do anything because it's connected to Twitch. And then Twitch is connected to my phone because it wants my phone number. That's the reason why, because of the 2-factor authentication. But I don't have a phone, so.
And how powerful it can actually be when people still connect with it. And instead, that entire conversation got hijacked and completely disconnected from what this game actually is. To me, I think that is the real loss in this case, because this isn't just that like entertainment has moved away from positive family dynamics or positive father figures, but it's also that we have drifted away culturally so far away that we can't even recognize something like this as good. We have to question it almost immediately. Family.
Not just that, the recent leaks of the GTA 5 online profit made is disgusting. People don't be expanding their library. Oh, really? Is it? Well, I know their online part
legit one of the most important
money,
things to me. Hell, I'm getting ready to move soon, and the whole reason I'm moving, it has basically everything to do with me just being closer to my family. I've been blessed with one of the greatest tribes on this planet, and those people are important to me. They've given me the life that I have. They've helped me through everything, and I wouldn't be anywhere without them. And when I look at a game like this and I see it motivate others to find that light, when I see a game that is trying to, how do I want to say this, trying to emulate that light in some way or simulate that light in some way, and then people are chasing that.
For me specifically, I'm like, I want to have a family, but I want the kids to have a better life compared to what I have. You know, the struggles that I went through. I don't want them to suffer and go through the struggles that I had to go through. You know, I want them to have a more better, fulfilling life compared to me. I want them to have the childhood that kind of basically I really didn't really have. So yeah, so that's kind of basically it. I'm convinced y'all Sony ponies don't be playing new games.
And wanting that for themselves as well. I want to see more of that.
It's called breaking the cycle, you know?
Things shouldn't be the way that they are. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did enjoy the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment down below, share the video with your friends, share it on social media, grow my power, grow my influence. I gotta get ready. I'm gonna go to a concert this evening.
Yeah, I'm like, it's just so weird how some people just think of the game in the most weirdest, like kind of like in the most weirdest possible way, you know? It's just so weird. It's incredibly wholesome. Honestly, I'm just tired of the internet. I feel like everything was better when it was limited to some degree, yeah. The curse of CA is real. Also, there are rumors that the next God of War game, Kratos' wife is going to be the main protag. No one asked for this, but Santa Monica Studios already felt they have enough ponies to keep them afloat if this is true. Oh, goodness gracious me. That better not be true, to be honest. Ooh. Well then. I don't think the rumors, but confirmed. I don't think it's rumors, but it's confirmed. I'd be curious to see what the God of War people have to say about this. But yeah, anyways, that's the end of the video. You guys can comment, like, subscribe, do all that fancy jazzy stuff. Kratos' wife is fucking dead, so her story really won't add much. Oh yeah, that is true, actually. We're talking about the it has to be, is it the second wife? They're gonna bring back the second wife that made Atreus, right? All right, well, whatever. I don't know how that's going to work out. I can't wait to hear that. I'm not gonna play it though. But the problem is that they're not even gonna bring that game over to the PC, so it doesn't really fucking matter because remember, Sony is not bringing in their single player games on PC anymore. They're basically only doing their multiplayer live service games on PC. So it doesn't really matter. But at the end of the day, they're probably gonna lose a lot of money. I don't think they're gonna earn that much money or so once they find out, you know, how the God of War game is going to be. Her story is a prequel which sets up for Kratos. Right. Okay. That will bite Sony in the ass? Yes, it will. Yes, it will. It definitely will hurt them pretty bad or so financially. It's been, you know, just depending how much money they drop making some of these games, of course. But yeah. Anyways, that's the end of the video. And honestly, stop thinking about weird stuff about Pragmata, okay? It's just a video game, all right? You know? And if it like ignites like their paternal like instincts or so for some of the gamer guys that they want a family, I'm like, that's good for them, you know? Hey, man, there's nothing wrong with bringing a new life into the world, you know? Like, becoming a father or so is probably, like, one of the greatest achievements, you know? Because, you know, that means you want to protect them and take care of them. And then they want to look up to you and then come up to you and say, like, or like say, you know, maybe like in show and tell or something or whatever, or what kind of hero they look up to. They say, my dad, I want to be like my dad when I grow up, you know? My dad is so cool because my dad does this and my dad does that, you know? So, but yeah, anyways, that's the end of the video. And honestly, hey man, activate your paternal instincts, gamer men. Activate it. And peace.